Good day, and welcome to this month's episode of Diversity Speaks True Talk with Terri. I'm Terri Howard, Associate Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Herzing University. At Herzing, we believe that diversity, equity, and inclusion are a living, breathing part of who we are and what we do. And we've created this series in part because we wanted to create a forum for civil discourse. We won't always agree, but let's speak our truths in a way where we can learn, listen, and as a result, grow. Also, there's a lot of questions out there around topics related to diversity and inclusion. We hope to shed some light on those topics and leave you with something to think about. True Talk is about taking the time to really understand everyone. So let's get talking and speak our truths. Many years ago, I was traveling for work and called back to the home office to talk to a work friend. I wanted to confirm a concert date that we had planned. The receptionist, who had worked for the company for over 20 years, answered the phone. And after greeting her and making small talk, I said something like, yeah, let me speak to my friend because I want to holler at her real quick. She said, sure, just a minute. My friend answered the phone and, in a somewhat confusing tone, said, what's wrong? I said nothing. I was calling about the concert. She said, oh, well, when you got transferred over, the receptionist said, you better watch out. I think Terry's on the warpath. Now, why would she say that? I thought to myself. Oh, I know. It's because I said I wanted to holler at my friend. Now, I wasn't meaning holler as in to yell, but rather holla, like holla back girl. How funny was that to me at the time, thinking that the older generation just doesn't understand our slang. Well, now I find myself in that older generation, working side by side with colleagues that sometimes seem to speak an entirely different language. The truth is, the workplace has become a multi generational place where people converge. This diversity is something that we should indeed be celebrating. As younger generations come of age, older individuals are opting to stay at work longer. And while multi generational workplaces present some obstacles for some employees and the workplace as well, they're actually a place where people can thrive. Let's talk a little bit more about the multi generational workforce. Today's workforce is incredibly diverse, especially when it comes to age. Believe it or not, there can be up to 5 generations present in America's professional landscape. There are traditionalists born in 1945 and before, baby boomers born between 1946 and 1964, Generation X born between 1965 and 1976, millennials born between 1977 and 1995, and Generation Z coming in born in 1996 and thereafter. Information compiled by the Society of Human Resource Management and AARP reveals that millennials account for approximately 50% of the workforce. Meanwhile, the population of people older than 65 is larger than ever, and it's actually expected to double in the next 20 to 30 years. And while these younger and older employees overlap, research reveals they typically want significantly different things from their careers. The former tends to prioritize purpose and personal development, while the latter seeks security and stability. But what does it look like? And how does it really play out in the workplace? My next two guests can speak to both the benefits and challenges to having a multi generational workplace. Today, I am pleased to introduce Dan Potterton, Executive Director, and Matthew Gilliam, Crisis Management Associate of FEI Behavioral Health. Welcome to the both of you, and thank you so much for participating in this great conversation today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for including us in the conversation.
As you know, we've been talking about multi generations in the workplace, and you two are certainly a great example of that. So, can each of you kind of tell me what your thoughts are around benefits and challenges to having multi generations share the same space in the workplace? Dan, would you like to lead off in responding to that?
Sure. I am working in a multi-generational workplace with millennials and Gen X and of course myself with other baby boomers. Um, the great part about it is the excitement that I find in the younger generations. They want to be challenged. They want to take on actually extra tasks. Um, and that is a pleasure to have. Um, there have been stereotypes and about generations. Frankly, I think some of those stereotypes don't do well. They don't really define that generation in the way I find them.
That's interesting. Matt, can you add some flavor to the benefits of having a multi generational workplace?
Definitely. I would say one of the major benefits of working with multiple generations truly comes into play when we talk about technology um, and operations. We see with Gen X, um, things were a lot more manual before the birth of technology and where things really took off. So a lot of information had to be committed to memory. Whereas myself being a millennial, kind of growing up in an era where technology was taking over for a manual process. Yes, I learned to write in cursive and how to remember certain information, such as phone numbers, how to look at a map, and give directions to myself. However, with our newer generation, they have only known technology and not a process of doing things in a manual way. So I believe that those born in that Gen X area have a lot to offer in regard to how to commit things to memory, how to do things in a more manual way, where millennials have the upper hand in teaching those in Gen X how to do things in a less manual way, and take some of those manual practices out where some information may be too much of a task to remember, and they can, do things in a way that may be a little more efficient.
I like that. And so the information flow actually goes both ways, right? From
For sure.
an older generation of workers to a younger generation, but also in reverse as well. But I'm sure it doesn't come without challenges. Dan, can you speak a little bit, especially from a leadership perspective? Are there challenges that arise with these mixed generations present in the workplace?
I think in some respects, yes. The particularly the millennial generation really is eager and wants things faster and are more demanding. My particular generation, there was a little more process flow, et cetera. But having said that, in some of one of the advantages of particularly the younger generation is their real interest in their team orientation, their desire to work together in a group and problem solve and frankly generate better ideas. The challenge, if you would, for leadership is really a challenge of being open, making sure that you don't stereotype, acknowledge that one size does not fit all, and really take advantage of the differences.
I love that. And so, as you think about this more collaborative environment, are there other benefits to the workplace in general, Matthew, that you can speak to that exist when you have multi generations side by side?
Definitely. I would like to speak to one of the challenges that could become a benefit. I think that sometimes there's a breakdown in communication between generations. To touch on what Dan spoke of in regard to millennials wanting things faster, I think that of those born in that Gen X era, they don't quite understand that we don't have the same amount of patience or the ability to focus. Those born in that era were able to read books uninterrupted for hours. Myself, I can't stay focused for more than 30 minutes to an hour. So the understanding of or a breakdown in communication when it comes to business in regard to meeting times and the expectation for a project to be completed in a certain amount of time for those that are millennials and so on. It varies from person to person, and expectations may be a little more skewed in a way of a different era where certain people were able to sit down and work on a project for 2 to 3 hours uninterrupted and be able to push that out. Just having to understand between different generations that there are processes that are different and people are different now, and just having that understanding is what I think would become a benefit once those generations have that conversation and that understanding is made.
And that's exactly what we're talking about, right? When we talk about diversity and bringing those multi generations together creates that diversity of thought, diversity of problem solving, and the like. Finally, Dan, from a leadership perspective, can you talk to us a little bit about how leaders can actually contribute to making sure that everyone, regardless of what generation they're from, feel a sense of belonging in the workplace?
Generations like any other type of diversity in a workplace requires an openness of the leader to be able to have conversations, and sometimes even the uncomfortable conversations, and be good listeners. I think that's so important for a leader to put away preconceived notions, let themselves be open to work styles, and my generation, we worked to live. The younger generations are they're they I mean, excuse me, we live to work rather, and then the younger generations are we work to live, and they know they have another life. They know they have a life that they want to enjoy and have and recreation with their friends. We have to appreciate that, and the adjustment really is making the adjustment in scheduling, making the adjustments in being more flexible in how you get the work done.
I want to thank the both of you for being a part of this very important conversation today.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate being part of it
Thank you,
and
Terry.
appreciate the work you're doing.
Absolutely. One of the core recommendations from the research is for organizational leaders and management teams to become more adept at understanding what their workers truly want and need. They need to recognize that there's no one size fits all solution for any one generation. It's essential to be able to adapt and adjust accordingly. Every generation is plagued by a slew of myths. Older workers, for example, are said to be less productive, lacking in innovation, resistant to change, and generally hard to work with. Conversely, younger workers are alleged to feel entitled, have short attention spans, and are non-committal. But amidst unfounded stereotypes lies a simple truth. Generations can work in harmony if inaccurate perceptions are corrected. And finally, While having employees from multiple generations may present some challenges, it also offers us an opportunity for people with different perspectives to learn and grow with each other. That's our truth, and that's our show. Join us next time, and be well.